In recent decades, the Asia-Pacific region has made great strides in reducing extreme poverty thanks to vibrant trade and investment. Income and opportunities have risen, driven by innovation and commitment, and women are helping to power this growth. Yet gaps remain on gender equality both in work and in society. The East Asian Pacific region has closed 2/3 of its economic gender gap so far. But to fully close the gap, it could take another 100 years. Closing gender gaps in work and society would add up to $4.5 trillion to the region. To accelerate this timeline, UN Women and the European Union launched We Empower Asia to catalyze business action towards gender equality and increase women's full equal economic participation. In China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, we work with companies, investors, workers, policymakers, civil society, and a wide range of stakeholders, focusing on 3 areas. First, we create an enabling business environment for women. Second, we promote women-owned businesses and gender-inclusive entrepreneurship. And third, we advance gender-inclusive business cultures through the Women's Empowerment Principles, or WEPs. The WEPs are 7 principles that guide companies to promote gender-equal corporate leadership, inclusive and safe workplaces, equal pay for work of equal value, gender-responsive supply chain, marketing and community advocacy practices, and transparency and accountability of business at large. As we strive to build a more inclusive future for all, join us, along with thousands of business leaders around the world, who are now driving progress for women, turning their promises into reality. Because gender equality is more than just a moral responsibility. It's also great for business.
Think about the impact of a signature. Think about the magnitude of a global movement. Think about the difference you can make and the power of transformative change. By signing the Women's Empowerment Principles, you can galvanize your shareholders and stakeholders to drive change in the workplace, marketplace, and community through a framework of 7 principles. Brought to you by UN Women and UN Global Compact, the Women's Empowerment Principles are a roadmap for business sustainability, innovation, and productivity. Businesses by the thousands and in every sector are becoming part of this world-changing movement to advance gender equality. Businesses that become models for attracting talent, entering new markets, serving their communities, and measurably improving the bottom line. Because gender equality means better business. Don't miss this moment to make a lasting impact on your employees, suppliers, customers, and investors. Join leading companies already on the journey to greater sustainability and growth. Commit to the Women's Empowerment Principles and make today your organization's signature moment.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiliw, dala sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dilim mo'y buhay. Lupang hiniram, dulot ka ng magiging, sa manlulupin, di ka masisingil, sa lahat at tulog, sa singil at sa langit mong babang, naginanang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng patawad mo'y kalupay na nagdiligin, ang bituin at araw ng kailan pamalimasin. Lumalang araw ng 100% buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang higaya na pag ay makahamit, ang mga tayo ng dahil sa'yo.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm Mylena Viva, President of the Women's Business Council Philippines. We are on the third session of I Am Woman, Women Are Learning series, and the momentum is rising. We began with I Am Empowered, Magna Carta and Gender Fundamentals. Then last week, we had I Am Leader, Inclusive Leadership. I Am a Communicator, Corporate Communication with a Gender Lens is a webinar for businesses to strongly advocate for gender equality and inclusive organizational culture, wherein corporate communication strategies must be crafted with a gender lens. Businesses need a gender-balanced approach to internal and external communication. This must be geared towards a balanced representation of women and men. It must also be non-discriminatory and free of gender stereotypes. I would like to express my gratitude to all the Women Biz members who participated in the I Am Woman, Women Are Learning series and the ebook that's coming out. From chapter lead to case study authors, panelists, moderator, book cover artists, and the Women Biz supported members. Our speaker today, Dr. Karen De Asis, is a longtime friend from the Philippine Marketing Association. In the marketing industry, we named her Dr. Karen De Asis as Jack of all trades, master of everything. She has won the coveted Agora Award as marketing educator in 2015 and puts a twist to a popular figure of speech with recognitions and successes in various industries under her name. I Am Woman is organized by the Women's Business Council Philippines and supported by UN Women Philippines, Department of Trade and Industry, Philippine Commission on Women, Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Business for Social Progress, Indian Women in Enterprise, Philippine Marketing Association, Association of Filipino Franchisers, and other private partner organizations. Today, we will expound our knowledge on communication with a gender lens and branding ourselves with a story that will reach all touch points. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to I Am Woman, I Am a Communicator. Next up is the opening remarks of our partner, UN Women Philippines, Ms. Rosaline Messina.
Thank you, Mylene. Magandang hapon. Maganda at maulan na hapon sa ating lahat. And welcome to the third installation, as Mylene mentioned, of the I Am Woman webinar series with special focus on communication. Just last week, I am sure all of us are aware, a particular brand of camera went viral after it unveiled and introduced their brand ambassadors with an all-male lineup. These generated a lot of reactions, primarily from women audience and female photographers. But it is also so encouraging to see how other men spoke up to call out this issue too. There is so much we can learn and reflect on such an event on many layers and on many levels. But this all leads to the strong importance of how communicating with the gender lens internally and externally is really, really something we need to all learn now. So this afternoon, I really look forward to hearing and learning from all of our esteemed speakers and panel members how we can amplify our voices to tackle key issues we need to highlight and address about women's place, women's struggles, women's work, contributions, and us as members of communities in this society where we hope could really see during this generation to be more gender equal. Words, unspoken or not, together with images and all other elements of communication should make us think and rethink if we are perpetrating biases and discrimination or if we are using it to empower, include, and promote equality. I hope that this session and the takeaways and reflections we can have from this discussion will really allow us to be more mindful on how we will develop and how we would utter the words, our actions, whether that's in our home, in our offices, in our businesses, or even in the social media platforms where we tend to engage. I'm just so happy to be seeing and reading a lot of women engaging, questioning, and really putting out there the very difficult questions so we can always challenge the status quo not to be difficult, but really to make sure we have that space where we want to be and where we need to be. And as always, UN Women We Empower Asia is really, really so happy to be supporting this initiative. And we cannot wait to really see the final publication that we hope that would be given birth to after all of the lessons we'll be, taking in and learning from all of you in this series. Welcome everyone and magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Let's enjoy this afternoon.
Okay. Magandang umaraw na sana sa ating lahat. Yes, it's rainy where I am, and I hope in your place that the sun is peeping out. So my message to everyone is magandang umaraw na sana para sa ating lahat. So thank you very much, Lenlen, and thank you, Mylene, for starting this off. This is, for me, a very exciting part of our 6-part webinar series because it's on communications, and that is exactly what I do for a living. But before I go and introduce our speaker, I would like to just tell everyone that, like the first 2 webinars or women webinars that we have, it's a learning series, we will have 2 parts. The first part will be sharing, where we get to learn about the topic from a resource person. And the second part will be our featured case study authors who will be sharing their experiences on the topic that we have, which is corporate communications with a gender lens. And so allow me at this point to introduce our very exciting speaker. Mylene actually already gave a little hint on her, but actually she has so many awards in her pocket, and among them are the prestigious Agora Awards for Marketing Education in 2003, Outstanding Faculty in 2008 for De La Salle University, and the 2018 Philippines Women Leadership Excellence Recognition presented by the World Women Leadership Congress. Our speaker is Dr. Karen De Asis, and she is a highly, highly insightful, pragmatic practitioner, an academic brand strategist who can actually combine both practical and theoretical insights. Her expertise includes brand building and re-engineering both old and mature brands and elevating these to become hidden champions, if not strong challengers in their categories. She is the chief brand strategist of MKS Marketing Consulting and Training Corporation, which has been credited with branding and rebranding brands like Oracare, Executive Optical for more than a decade now, and the Generics Pharmacy, Everest Appliances, among others. She has extensive experience in many different industries. She has actually completed her master's in business administration, the Ateneo Graduate School of Business, in the honors academic roster, and obtained her Doctor of Education major in leadership with the highest distinction at the De La Salle University. Postdoctoral, she obtained her executive education program in strategic marketing management at the Stanford Graduate School of Business in Silicon Valley at the USA, and her executive education program in strategic leadership and strategic marketing at the SAID Graduate School of Business in Oxford University in London, UK. She is a great teacher, and her students have been so lucky. She has been teaching in the country's finest graduate schools of business, including the La Salle Graduate School of Business, the Asian Institute of Management, and in the MBA Health program of the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. Now, once in a while, she flexes her passion for writing by writing for the Philippine Daily Inquirer on her favorite topics of branding and marketing. In fact, she's actually authored her book. It's a best-selling strategic brand management book called Color Folders in the Mind, a branding story. So, dear participants, let's give a warm virtual welcome to Dr. Karen De Asis. Karen, over to you.
Hello there. Thank you to all the participants who made time to join this afternoon's I Am Women conference series. I would like to thank the organizers, most especially for coming up with this event. And of course, to the people behind the I Am Woman event, particularly to Monette and to Maylene Abiva. Moving forward and having said, well, those were really nice introductions from Maylene and Monette. Thank you so much. But let me begin by sharing with you the company that I help found and manage. So this is a 1 or 2 minute video on MKS Marketing Consulting. Okay, moving forward, allow me to go into the center of my topic presentation, inclusive branding. Why are more and more people these days talking about diversity and inclusiveness? And what does branding and corporate communications have to do with it? Let me begin my story with the two most important generational cohorts succeeding the boomers and the Generation X. These two generational cohorts, the millennials and the Gen Zs, are the greatest trigger of all time to social inclusiveness. Both cohorts fuel and start to fuel the economy now with purchasing power of their own as they enter the formal and informal sector. Now, let us just refresh our memory for those who are familiar with the millennials. The millennials are born 1977 to 1994. They would be around 27 to 44 years old, while the Gen Zs are born 1995 to 2010, now 26 to 11 years old. Now, these generational cohorts strongly believe, espouse, and influence people around them to say no to being judgmental, to be more tolerant, and embrace differences. Now, let me key in on the millennial generation. The Generation Y, or the millennial generation, is often referred to as the me generation. Millennials are criticized for being entitled and expecting things to be handed to them. On the contrary, millennials express care and concern for family. They beat the boomers when 63% of millennials in a research acknowledge that it is their responsibility to care for an elderly parent, compared with only 55% among the boomers. The millennials are the precursors of diversity and inclusiveness. For example, the largest generation of young adults is far more accepting of gay marriage than their predecessors. A Pew Research poll released in May 2019 in the US actually showed 74% of millennials support gay marriage, compared to 58% of Gen Xers and 51% of baby boomers. Now, just to have a bird's eye view of who these millennials are, on the screen, you will see popular faces. This would be LeBron James, Mark Zuckerberg, Will Dasovich, Heart Evangelista, pop music Ben and Ben, and of course, there's our first Olympic gold medalist, Heidelin Diaz, Nick Jonas, Crash Landing on You, Son Ye, and Yoon Bin for all those K-pop dramas, Alex Gonzaga, Ann Curtis, Justin Bieber, to name a few. Okay. What about the Gen Zs? Who are this and who are they? The Gen Zs are described as a loyal generation that exhibits strong feelings and concern for those around them, and they align their pledges of support with issues that affect everyone, not just themselves. The Gen Zs are described as compassionate. Their access to unlimited information allowed them to see the effects of events and experiences on real people via pictures and videos. In addition, their constant connection with others provide a means to be in the know of issues facing family and friends. Now, the Gen Zs are actually very thoughtful with a genuine concern. They are highly motivated by relationships and the ability to work towards something they care about more than financial advancement. Okay, so let's look at some popular Gen Z faces. Of course, for those who love basketball, there's Luka Doncic, the 22-year-old NBA player. And for those K-pop music, there's BTS, or the Bangtan Boys, the South Korean boy band who's always on the top one of the Billboard chart. And there are other Gen Z music icons like Shanty Dope and Billie Eilish, Kendall Jenner, 18-year-old environmentalist Greta Thunberg, who started to hold protests against climate change outside of the Swedish parliament at the age of 15. Greta is a 2019 Time Person of the Year and recipient of the International Children's Peace Prize. Now, these Gen Zs actually have had also a hard life. Their life experiences have taught them to become more open-minded and tolerant. Now, these two generational cohorts have actually triggered recognizing and embracing diversity. Now, how does it link up to inclusive branding? Allow me to move forward and key in on a couple of definitions to put everybody in perspective. Branding is actually a collection of associations that the customer has with the brand, and that determines the value of a product or service. Now, not all products or services can be a brand. Most are commodities, because a brand, as mentioned, has to have collective associations that can be called in memory at any time. Now, most of the brands actually are measured by customer-based brand equity. It occurs when the consumer is familiar with the brand and holds some favorable, strong, and unique brand associations in memory. So, putting that in perspective, allow me then to define what inclusive branding is. Inclusive branding leverages on the brand's messaging, associations, cult followers, processes, technology, so that consumers of diverse race, age, gender, sexual orientation, class, religion physical and mental ability, including ethnicity, relationships, culture, body type, and other marginalized and underrepresented groups are drawn to, deeply connect, and fully experience the brand. Inclusive branding is actually the summation of all the brand's marketing activities that create a new or sustaining brand association towards a goal of recognizing diversity and celebrating inclusiveness. Now, when products and services transcend from commodity to becoming brands, they have more leverage, flexibility, and reputation. Thus, their cult followers and potential consumers are likely to listen to the brands espousing inclusiveness. And brands can capitalize and extend the use of their own associations to espouse diversity and embrace inclusiveness. Allow me in the next slides to show you some 10 case studies while harping on how inclusive branding must be done. Okay, I will touch on 5 different dimensions of diversity. And the first is inclusiveness of diversity of relationships. Honeymaid is one of my favorite case study for branding. It's actually an old-fashioned or old brand of Graham crackers that was relaunched sometime in 2014. Now, when it relaunched in 2014, it did a most radical thematic national campaign that was actually a prelude to how much things have changed in family structures. Nevertheless, Honeymaid extended its own brand equity, which is wholesome, to this wholesomeness, to this new diversity campaign of theirs. Now, the ad particularly showed a 2-dad family, a single parent, an interracial family. Extending its brand equity association of wholesomeness built through the years to a new association of embracing diversity in family relationships. Most striking in its copy was, no matter how things change, what makes wholesome never will, Honeymaid. Everyday wholesome snacks for every wholesome family. This is wholesome. So the ad was actually deeply heartwarming. It shows and it presented the word wholesome as attached to new family structures. So let me take you through that particular ad.
No matter how things change, what makes us wholesome never will. Honeymaid, everyday wholesome snacks for every wholesome family. This is wholesome.
So Honeymaid's diversity journey was actually not without a strong backlash. In fact, when it was launched, there were hordes and hordes of negative messages, letters, emails, and so on and so forth. But the brand owners actually reinforced their earlier message, contrary to what others would have done by probably pulling out the ad. Honeymaid's, a month after, actually came up with an ad titled Love. And that second commercial, in that second commercial, the company actually hired artists to take the messages of hate and turn them into something positive. The spot showed 2 women folding up numerous sheets of paper containing the negative comments into tube-like shape and laying them out on the ground. At the end of the spot, the image was revealed. The paper tubes actually spelled the word love. At the time, according to Honeymaid's management, the second ad received more than 10 times as many positive comments than the number of negative ones that they received first. So for positive, inclusive branding. heartwarming indeed. The second case study is that of River Island. It's a 60-year-old high street fashion brand originating from UK. Just like Honeymade, in 2019, River Island explored the changing face of modern families. Hashtag This Is Family is part of its Many Diversity campaign. In UK, where the brand originated and is ubiquitous, the traditional nuclear family has actually changed a lot. The traditional nuclear family actually represents less than 1/3 of families already in the UK. And blended families, non-biological families, multiracial families, same-sex parent families, and single-parent families have grown significantly. Despite this, the multifaceted family has often been overlooked in branding and advertising. Just like Honeymade, the campaign is also an ode to diversity in family units and focuses on images which examine how the traditional nuclear family of yesteryears has been transformed. Under the hashtag, This is Family, River Island sought to redefine the family stereotype. River Island actually celebrates its customers alongside championing diversity and inclusivity.
Action.
It's about where you're from, it's about your values.
Your trust.
Genuine care.
People you can't live without, people who are there for you.
Patience. Unconditional love. Yeah, what she said.
It's the family you choose.
We're basically married.
Family means being there no matter who you are and what you do. Oh, bless you.
I embarrass everybody.
You always have something to play with.
This is family.
This is family.
This is family.
This is family.
Let me move on to the second dimension of diversity, which is gender. The gender divide has caused society to categorize certain behaviors as masculine and feminine, heightening women and men's physical differences. For example, gender stereotypes include women as solely relegated to the home, while the men are more suitable, becoming the family provider. Men who stay at home are sometimes labeled as house husbands and are perceived to be inutile, while career-oriented women are seen to be selfish, overly ambitious, and narcissistic. Hence, brand campaigns that raise public consciousness about gender equality are becoming widely acknowledged. Women are encouraged to work towards their full potential, while there is a need to have more men supporting women rising. Having said this, allow me to share the efforts of 3 very popular and familiar brands as they deep dived into gender neutrality. These are Pampers, Zara, and Barbie. But before that, allow me to show you 2 slides that support the claim that gender neutrality is actually strongest among the 2 younger generational cohorts of millennials and Gen Zs. So on the screen, you will find several statements. And in summary, the screen slide tells us that tolerance and gender neutrality is actually highest among the Gen Zs than any other generation. And on the screen, you will also see several products: shoes, clothes, deodorant, fragrance, sports equipment, accessories. And in this particular research, it was also found out that the younger Gen Zs are more gender neutral in their buying preferences and choices. Okay, so let's look into Pampers. Okay. First shown on Super Bowl's online video stream, Pampers' #Love the Change campaign banked on the insight that dads consider themselves to be hands-on parents. But actually, they also felt that society placed less value on them and on their dad's parenting role. So what Pampers did was to take on John Legend and Adam Levine. And in this commercial titled Stinky Booty Duty video, we see the 2 musicians happily helping in parenting.
Hi, baby boy. Somebody's got a stinky woo. I'm gonna need some backup on this one.
Guys? Somebody got a stinky, so stinky booty.
It's a stinky booty.
It's so stinky. And Daddy's gonna clean it up.
Oh, hey, Chrissy.
Must we do this every time?
The next brand is, of course, our favorite fashion brand, Zara. The fashion brand Zara also actually did some adverts and showed dads comfortable in their parenting role. And our favorite brand, Barbie, whose brand equity association through several decades is actually imagination. Allow me to show you the two most talked about Barbie campaigns. The first video, actually, which was first shown on Barbie's 56th year, was marked by a tie-up with Italian fashion label brand Moschino. But then, it was at this time that the brand Barbie rocked the digital world when for the first time, it showed a young boy. The campaign is one of several, many embracing diversity and inclusiveness via the brand story built through decades, a brand that represents self-expression, fashion, imagination specifically. Now, the second material is an ode to encouraging young girls to again imagine and break the stereotype and barriers surrounding feminine gender.
Mosquito Barbie. She's the most Mosquito Barbie ever. Totally hot, totally cool, totally Mosquito Barbie. So fierce. Look at those shoes that felt her hair, covered in gold with mosquito hair. I love you, Mosquito Barbie. She's the girl who has it all. Nothing can stop her. Please hold while she takes this call. It's for you, Mosquito Barbie.
Mosquito Barbie doll fabulosity totally included.
Hello, my name is Gwyneth, and I'll be your professor today. And I will be talking about the brain.
Hi.
Hello, I'm your veterinarian today.
You're kidding.
Nope, I'm Dr. Brooklyn. See?
Okay, doctor.
Oh, here, let me see. Good morning, everyone. I'm your new coach. My name is Maddie. Nice to meet you. I had the most fantastic day in the office. You'll never believe what happened. We got that new business I wanted. Have you ever seen him fly?
Have you seen him what?
Fly?
No.
My cat can fly.
Okay.
The dog's brain can't think as much as the human's brain because there's no high school for the dog. This is Peter, the Triceratops. Peter is 1 year old. The T-Rex, Sally, is 1,002,252 years old. Knees up like a unicorn. Higher, higher. I've been to New York, Transylvania, Pennsylvania. We can think and do lots of stuff with our brain. Now, does anybody know how big the brain is? Anybody? Sophia. It's It is medium. Medium. Very good.
Okay, so moving forward, let me discuss the third dimension of diversity, which is physical and mental ability and capability, and use my favorite example, Honeymaid. As part of its diversity campaign, Honeymaid came up with a storyline that featured a disabled woman teaching her niece how to make apple and cheddar melts. The commercial featured Stephanie Woodward, a disabled woman who is also a disability rights lawyer. She's the director of advocacy of the Center for Disability Rights in the US.
Show me how you've been working out. Whoa! Like that.
Like this.
Honeymaid, this is wholesome.
Another case study that is very suitable for physical and mental ability and capability diversity is actually a favorite brand of most of us, Nike. The brand Nike was founded in 1964 by Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman. Unknown to many, actually, Nike has always been an inclusive brand. Notice its defining philosophy: so long as you have a body, you are an athlete. Nike's defining philosophy embraces inclusiveness and veers away from the stereotype definition of athletes as very proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. For the brand Nike, again, so long as you have a body, you are an athlete and a winner, and therefore just do it. Allow me to show you two adverts that typify this brand mission of Nike.
We're never alone. And that is our strength. Because when we're doubted, we'll play as one. When we're held back, we'll go farther and harder. If we're not taken seriously, we'll prove that wrong. And if we don't fit the sport, we'll change the sport. We know things won't always go our way.
And the world's sporting events are postponed or cancelled.
But whatever it is, we'll find a way. And when things aren't fair, we'll come together for change.
We have a responsibility
to make this world a better place. And no matter how bad it gets, we will always come back stronger. Because nothing can stop what we can do together.
Can you be an athlete? You, pregnant. You, a mother. That depends. What is an athlete? Someone who moves? Sounds like you. Someone who gets it done, no matter what. You do that. Someone who listens to her body. Also you. Someone who defies gravity. You. Someone who deals with the pain, hits her limit, and pushes past it. Pushing, pushing, pushing. Someone who earns every single win. You. So, can you be an athlete? If you aren't, no one is.
The next case study is that of Dove, also a very popular brand. Dove's Real Beauty campaign came about in 2004 when the brand started using real women. The campaign was meant to address the stereotype concept of what is beautiful and at the same time address body shaming and the fact that natural beauty came from within. Since then, Dove has been sustaining their campaign, encouraging women to have more confidence and self-esteem and think beauty comes from within.
It was my choice. And now I will question myself for the next few weeks, maybe months.
We had an option of 2 pathways to walk, and they led to 2 doorways. It was a bit confronting, actually, to be honest, to see these big signs and feeling like you had to choose and be self-conscious of how you perceive yourself and perhaps if it lines up with how the rest of the world perceives you.
I went through the average door.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't even hesitate.
漂亮对我的概念来说，就是像明星那种遥不可及的那种。我走的是一般。
Mas eu acho que é mais porque eu me arrependi da escolha, porque era diferente do que eu vivo, é diferente do que eu sou.
Am I choosing because of what's constantly bombarded at me, what I'm being told that I should accept, or am I choosing because that's what I really believe?
I walked into that door which said average, and I didn't feel really good after that. Because obviously I had rated myself average and nobody else.
Todos os dias eu passo pela porta comum e ontem foi um dia único e eu optei por passar pelo bonita.
I wanted to go through the average door, but my mum just pulled me over to the beautiful door.
It was quite a triumphant feeling. It was like telling the world, I think I'm beautiful.
I just wish more young women realized it.
要是再给我一次机会走那扇门的话，我觉得我应该会选很美的扇门。
I think I would walk through the beautiful door.
Acho que a porta bonita tá completamente aberta para mim.
Maybe I could walk in that door.
You can.
Next time I look into the mirror, I will see somebody really beautiful looking back at me.
Beautiful is a great word. So why not see what's on the other side of that?
The fourth dimension of diversity is race and culture, recognizing people of different races, colors, and cultures is actually an ongoing challenge, more so respecting cultural differences and societal behaviors. However, unknown to many, one early proponent is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's Hilltop advert that first aired sometime 50 years ago in 1971, 3 years after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1968, was the first ever advert to embrace inclusiveness of people of all races and culture, whose diversity found commonness in one refreshing, the Equity Association, one refreshing Coca-Cola bottle. They followed this up with a second inclusive ad sometime in 1987, an ad that took world stage in 1987 or 34 years ago. Now, what is crucial in that particular ad is that it brought a lot of child vocalists who would be today's new millennial generation. So I'd like to show you 3 Coca-Cola ads. The first is the Hilltop ad. The last 2 would be the Tomorrow's People version, one in French and one in a Filipino version with our very own Lilith.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony, perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing.
Je suis le monde de l'avenir, je suis l'espoir de ma nation, je suis le peuple du futur, et je suis votre inspiration. Nous avons une chanson à chanter, nous avons un message à donner. Que demain soit pour vous et pour moi un nouveau jour, nouveau jour. Nous nous tendrons la main, oui ce sera demain un nouveau jour, nouveau jour. Et nous serons tous là, Coca-Cola c'est ça. Un nouveau pour toujours. Promettez-nous demain, nous ferons un monde meilleur pour vous, un monde meilleur pour vous.
Ang bukas ko'y narito na, punong-puno ng pag-asa. Kami ang kabataan, kaming liwanag ng bayan. Aawit namin handog sa inyo, buhay at damdamin sa aming puso. Halina kayo, sama-sama tayo, may bukas pa, may bukas pa. Pakinggan ang ibig, ating bagong tinig, may bukas pa, may bukas pa. Pagtulungan natin, bukas tayo magsaya, tuloy-tuloy ikaw ang ako. Sama-sama tayo, sa isang mas magandang mundo.
And the final dimension of diversity for today's presentation is the marginalized and underrepresented. The brand Apple Macintosh was the first actually to address this dimension of diversity and exhibit inclusiveness. Co-founded by Steve Jobs in 1981, Apple started with a socially inclusive campaign that showed diverse people can come united under one belief that people with passion, just like Apple, can change the world and make it a better place. These were the people who think different, people with dreams, hopes, and ambitions, where Apple shares them and can help them achieve their dreams and goals.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
In closing, to my mind, brands have the biggest potential to create awareness around the importance of addressing diversity in a positive way and building a culture of inclusiveness. With its sizable media budgets and cult and potential followers. Not all brands, though, can be inclusive, as it requires sustained open-mindedness, transformational leadership, and a deep-seated organizational culture that recognizes and embraces the value of diversity in and out, or internal and external. I would like to end my presentation with a L'Oreal advert where the message is, by collectively engaging, even though in small efforts, we can make a big difference towards recognizing diversity and creating positive inclusiveness at the same time.
We see it happen everywhere, at any time. 78% of women have experienced sexual harassment in public spaces.
Like a suggestive comment,
a sexually explicit touch,
an inappropriate gesture,
or being followed. And it threatens our self-worth.
It takes over who we are.
We see it happen, but stay cautiously silent and uncomfortably look away.
Maybe because we don't know what to do.
How to help.
Or how to combat the situation.
I said I'm fine, so
The time has come to keep our heads up and to stand up for each other against street harassment.
And everyone can be part of the solution.
Sorry, I'm gonna pay for it.
Excuse me. Is this yours?
Can you help me, please? I'm looking for this direction.
L'Oreal Paris and the nonprofit organization Hollaback have joined forces to teach men and women how to combat sexual harassment in public spaces with simple but impactful actions.
Learn how to combat street harassment at standup-india.com. Take a stand with L'Oreal Paris, because we're all worth it.
All right, so once again, my deep gratitude to the organizers. Thank you very much for this afternoon's opportunity to be able to share some learnings.
Thank you very, very much, Karen. Oh my goodness, such rich information that you've provided us. Thank you. Okay, before we go into Q&A, I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question, please indicate it on the Q&A button or on the chat box, and we will take it up. And let's start. This is so interesting. Looking at all of the things that you have shown, Karen, one thing I noticed is that these were from overseas, actually. Do you have any samples that were original Filipino brands, for instance?
The thing with the Filipino brands, it is not, more of the campaigns are on a tactical basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see a brand that actually would be able to tackle inclusive branding in a much more long-term, as a much more long-term effort, so that the association will be built in strongly into the brand itself.
So when you say tactical, that's sundot-sundot lang, right?
Probably once in the lifetime of the brand, diba? That's in this case, because it's a very sensitive, as I mentioned, it takes a lot of courage to do inclusive branding. Because if you look back, let's say at Honeymaid, at all the other brands, you will see that there's often backlash. As a personal experience, one of the brands actually that I've handled, there was no intent even of, it was a very gender neutral ad, but then sometimes people read into the images or into the words, or sometimes you don't even know if competitors use it as a forum in order to demean a particular strong brand. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is, if you want to engage in inclusive branding, it must be something that must be done internally and externally with the agreement and with a cohesive effort of even up to the brand owner, the company owners, and the board. So inclusive branding is not just a particular advertising campaign. It must be something that must be embraced, internal and external, even by the organization. In my experience, what I have noticed is often those who are strong in coming up with open-minded or inclusive brand adverts actually have the family as their nucleus as well. If you are raised by an open-minded family, as well as an open-minded, let's say, as well as open-minded friends, or you move into a circle of open-mindedness, then it is easier for the brand owner, the company owner, to be able to sustain inclusive branding at the highest level. Because even, for example, Dove very recently made a slip. Sometime in 2019, they came up with a Dove lotion ad where they showed Black women turning fair-skinned. So it created a lot of backlash. So what am I saying? Even the people managing the brand must be very sensitive to the issue and must have the experience and the learning to be able to assess the images and words that come into this inclusive branding campaign. So it actually is one of the most difficult to come up with.
So it's what you're trying to say, what I gather from what you're saying is that it really must be embedded in the values, and better to come from the leadership, going down from the people who own the brand.
People who own the company who owns the brand, the owners of the company that owns the brand.
So they're the ones who will take the risk, and they can make that decision because they own it. So yeah, that's a very interesting take. But once you do have that, how do you now get the entire organization to support it? Where do we start? What would be your recommendation, Karen?
I think the messaging should be clear-cut. And because there are different, when we talk of inclusiveness, there are actually different dimensions of diversity. And as you have seen in the presentation, I've only shown 5. So the management, the owners, must actually have passion for one dimension to be able to sustain it. It all starts with a focused messaging. We're not far away actually from the usual branding effort. You still have to have a clear-cut brand positioning, what you would like your brand to be associated with. So once you have narrowed it into one diversity, because having 2 would be much more difficult, then if you've narrowed down the message that you are most passionate with when it comes to diversity and inclusiveness, then you're right on track. Now, my presentation is actually also presenting another idea, which is it is far easier for notable brands, or if you are already a brand, to go into inclusive branding, specifically because the brand itself has already uh, an association, has already history, has already reputation. So it's like, one person who is acclaimed um, talking about a certain passionate message. So it's far easier if a particular product or service is already a brand and the brand goes into inclusive branding. Although the inclusive branding association must complement the existing image association of that particular brand. It cannot go disparate.
You started your presentation earlier, Karen, by actually identifying two target markets that have actually changed, the acceptance of people, and have forwarded this idea of inclusion. So for brands, for example, who would be catering to this kind of market, it seems then that being an inclusive or having inclusive advertising will translate to bottom line. Do we see that happening?
The presentation, I agree, started with two generational cohorts, but these two generational cohorts have different needs and wants as well. And one of the things that we have learned about these generational cohorts is that they are far more accepting or tolerant than any other, than previous generations. It is one of the ways, inclusive branding is actually one of the ways to reach out to them. But there are other many branding ways.
Would you like to share what those branding ways would be for
That would
those
be
who are
an entire
interested?
conference. That would be another entire conference topic.
Okay, we have a question here in the chat box. And this one is, this is from Cynthia Mamon, who is a Women Biz member. What do you say about using Korean talents in our Filipino companies' ad campaigns? Obviously, these are all tactical campaigns. What do you think?
Then that I would not label the Korean talents. I would more or less go into the messaging that that particular particular brand would want to say. Having a Korean talent is just one of the ways to present the messaging. So that particular brand can actually come up with another let's say advert material to make it sustainable. That's what I'm saying about sustainability. If the brand's message was more like inclusiveness of race, of culture, etc., then having that Korean version is just one material. Then you can have another material, which is a Filipino version. You have the Ben and Ben. Okay, if it's the popular boy band BTS as representing the Korean version, then you can have the popular Ben and Ben, very popular among the millennials and the Gen Zs, as also representing another advert. Then you have another material where you can have a Taiwanese version. So that's an entire campaign. But most of the time, brands here in the Philippines probably take on just one, and there is no sustainability. So the example that I laid out was an example of putting sustainability if the intent was to show inclusiveness of diversity of race and culture. I don't know if I have addressed your question.
The brands that you have presented are really brands that have been around for a long time and have shown staying power. And so I guess because of their brand equity, they also have that strength to perhaps venture into something that may not be as popular as the inclusive information that we have. I have a question. What about for the agency itself? You as an owner of an agency, you may have your own values, right? And it could be inclusive. What do you think that it makes sense for you to present it to a brand, to one of your clients, or would you wait na lang for them to come to you and say, I have this idea?
If it's best to present it to a mature brand. Because then mature brands probably would be a little bit more experimental in order to refresh their brand association.
Actually, when you're talking about experimental, the fact right now that we're into this pandemic and that we've already lost access to out of home, the billboards as a means of advertising, it's really more of internet stuff. Won't this digital marketing give us people who want to try inclusiveness in their campaigns a better way to try something out, and if it doesn't work, take it out right away? What do you think about that?
Actually, many of the campaigns that I've shown you have actually started or have put a lot of budgets in digital media.
So they started with digital.
Some have started with digital. Some many complemented it with other mainstream media because it's a multimedia format. It doesn't mean that, for example, that the Gen Zs and millennials access the digital. Well, it's a misnomer to say that the Gen Zs and the millennials access only one media format. In fact, do you know that the Gen Zs are actually the most prolific readers of all generations? Very surprising, right? Okay, though they do it probably Kindle, but there's also a segment that loves the hard copy still.
I can see that actually in my children. So they're voracious readers. There is a question here in the chat. It's from Attorney Dulce Punsalan. Hi, Karen. Will the following statements form part of inclusive branding? Start with tone, be intentional with language, ensure representation, consider context, avoid appropriation, and counter stereotype. Comments on this? Do you think that this refer to inclusive branding? Let's starting with tone.
Actually, there are certain words, certain images. There is actually, we have already a gender fair media guidebook.
Okay.
So it's something that was done sometime December 2017. Okay, let me just take you through some of the, let me see if I have. Oh, so there are some practical guides. For example, when you do or develop adverts, every person has the right to be treated with dignity. As such, gender fairness requires that women be accorded the same level of respect. So there actually is already a guide.
Yeah, there is a guide for us, and perhaps you could send us the link and we could share it with our members so that those who wish to get more information for their own branding.
I think the Advertising Standards Council or the ASC, they can access it from ASC as well.
Okay, from ASC, good. Thank you so much, Karen. At this point, because we have to end our part 1 already and go into part 2 because we do have our case authors. I just want to quickly wrap up what Karen mentioned. She presented beautiful examples in media of inclusivity and different facets of inclusivity. The first being diversity of relationships, the honey maid, the river island, this is family, this is wholesome. I really love that. Inclusiveness of diversity in gender with Pampers, the singing dads, the Zara, where you show all of the different clothes and you have different genders wearing them. And the Barbie, the little girls who were acting out who they would be and who they could be by dreaming everything, no? That they can be. And it starts from youth, actually, when we hone the children. Diversity of physical and mental ability and capability. both Honey Maid, Nike, and Dove. I really love the real beauty thing that you presented. Karen, I was wondering which door I would go through. I would probably hesitate because I would look around first and say, oh, if no one's watching, I'm going to go through beautiful. But sometimes we talk to ourselves, and that's something that we need to change. Coca-Cola, one of my favorite brands from when I was young, diversity of race and culture. I can still sing that tune until now. And then inclusivity of diversity of the marginalized and the underrepresented with Apple. So those were beautiful case studies that you presented. And the last one on safety. Thank you, Karen. That's going to be the topic actually for our last webinar. So at this point, may I call Mylene to please join us, and Len as we present the certificate of appreciation to Dr. Karen De Asis. Mylene?
Yes. By the way, Priya, we have a question here. We will address it later on. She has a question in the Q&A part.
Okay, later.
Can we just answer that before we proceed with the certification, giving the certificate of appreciation? Priya is asking a question, if I may read. When it comes to objectifying women in advertisements, is there any ethical code for agencies worldwide? Karen.
The question is about worldwide, but we do have actually in the Philippines, as I mentioned, because of the Advertising Standards Council. I would like to think that every country, because the Advertising Standards Council is not unique only to the Philippines. So I would like to believe that other countries would also have that gender fair media guidebook.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now let's proceed with the certificate of appreciation for Dr. Karen De Asis, Chief Brand Strategist of MKS Marketing and Consultancy, for your insightful and valuable insights during the I Am Woman Women Are Learning series. I am a communicator, corporate communication with a gender lens, given this 29th day of July 2021. Thank you so much, dear Karen.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, may we have a photo now with Dr. Karen? Okay, let's have let's count. Right. Okay, 1, 2, Sir Wax. Right.
Maraming salamat, Karen. Thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge on inclusivity in all its different forms. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Okay. All right. And now we're in the second part of our webinar series. And this time I am privileged to introduce the moderator for today. We take turns. All right. Last week, she introduced me, but this time I will be introducing her. And the success of the Women Business Council will not be successful without her hard work and dedication to the organization. Our moderator, she's called Monette, but her real name is Maria Montserrat Iturralde Hamlin. She's a woman leader, entrepreneur, mentor, and mother ducky. She's also a domestic goddess. Monette is the founder and president of Team Asia, a 29-year-old award-winning integrated marketing experience firm that builds brands through branding and design, digital marketing, content marketing, events and activation, video production. Monette concurrently serves as chairwoman of the Women's Business Council of the Philippines, chairwoman of Hopkins International Partners Incorporated, president of the Government Academe Industry Network, or GAIN, and Vice President for Conventions of the Philippine Association of Conventions, Exhibitions, Organizers, and Suppliers, or PASEOS. She served on the Tourism Promotions Boards as a director, representing the meeting, incentives, travel, conventions, and exhibitions, and event services and facilities sector. She leveraged a distinguished career in international publishing, to conceptualize and create Asia's first agency dedicated exclusively to corporate identity development and non-traditional multi-channel marketing communications. Monette developed the business processes that made Team Asia a modern marketing communications pioneer in Asia and an award-winning arbiter of industry performance. A popular public speaker and business consultant, Monette delivers presentations and workshops on event management, presentation skills, business writing, team building, dealing with difficult people, and more. She's a founder and lecturer of the Philippine MICE Academy. She is part of the Speakers Bureau of the League of Corporate Foundations, CSR Institute. She completed an AB in psychology at the College of the Holy Spirit, graduating summa cum laude, and her MBM with distinction at Asian Institute of Management. And she's also a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Directors. Monette was recognized as one of the 2021 most influential Filipino women on LinkedIn. Great. She received the Outstanding Women Entrepreneurs Award in 2018 by the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network, or AWEN, and the Philippines Women Leadership Awards 2018, and was featured on CNN's Leading Women. She was also chosen as one of the 2014 10 Outstanding Alumnae of the College of the Holy Spirit and a recipient of the IABAC 2016 CEO Excel Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairperson of the Women's Business Council and our moderator for today, please welcome Ms. Monette Iturralde Hamden.
Thank you so much, Mylene. Actually, coming from someone who was also on the same list of the 100 most influential women on LinkedIn, that's Mylene Abiva. So this particular topic that we have, I am a communicator, is something that is very important because we may do things, but unless we communicate it well, we don't really share that information. And using gender lens in communication can make the difference between reinforcing stereotypes that limit a person's capabilities and life choices and challenging these beliefs to help shape a more inclusive, diverse, and equal society. All of us, you, me, we have the power and the responsibility to create positive change in society through our choice of words and images. By equally representing men and women in non-traditional roles and professions, we implicitly remove gender bias and empower them to pursue their dreams and achieve their full potential. This afternoon, we're going to hear from 3 powerful women on their story, their experience with regards to corporate communications with a gender lens. So the first person who will be speaking could not make it physically today because she's in New York and it's a different time frame, but she has sent her video and we'll be playing that in a short bit. But before that, I would like to say that she is someone that I've been so proud to work with at the Women's Business Council board last year. Our speaker, Leah Karingal, manages her own multi-awarded PR agency. And her PR agency is called Green Bulb Communications. Okay, she also has Red Torch Communications. Leah develops strategic PR and communication campaigns, corporate positioning, CSR and ESG programs, product and campaign launches, issues management and media relations for government, public, and private institutions. She serves on the boards of Entrepreneurs Organization, the Creator and Influencer Council of the Philippines, and the International Association of Business Communicators. She is also a member of the Women in Business Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a virtual warm welcome to Leah Karingal, all the way from New York. Wax, please play the video.
Okay. Global gender surveys have consistently ranked the Philippines high, especially in the area of women empowerment. Having worked in corporate communications for over 25 years, I can attest to this. Not once have I seen a worker being othered or disadvantaged because of gender. That is alien in an industry that thrives on professionalism and dynamism, where competence, integrity, learning agility, empathy, and self-awareness are minimum requirements. Men and women enjoy equal status in corporate communications. There is nothing surprising about this. Working in corporate communications affords one the opportunity to interact with women who have broken the proverbial glass ceilings in their respective industries. Over the years, I have witnessed women chart new paths for their organizations, make decisions that would impact both individuals and bottom line, and lead people to maximize their potentials. Though empowered women are not a rarity, seeing them in their element is still inspiring, not only for me, but mostly especially for the younger members of my staff who have no dearth of role models in their respective careers. At the very least, it reaffirms the strength and ability of the Filipino talent. This is why it is always refreshing to interact with McDonald's Philippines' Margot Torres, who defines Filipino leadership in action. Seeing the husband and wife team of Dennis and Grace Uy at Converge is also invigorating. It exemplifies how men and women are equals who can achieve so much more when they work together. Kimi Flaviano leads a lean team of Smile Train, the world's largest cleft-focused organization in the Philippines, while Grace Vera Cruz helms Grab, which has continuously innovated to cater to the everyday needs of the Filipinos, especially during this pandemic. Being in corporate communications also confers one of the opportunity to spread the word about the innovation and inspiring work of Filipino companies to benefit women through CSR initiatives or ESG investing. For instance, Coca-Cola's Entrepreneurship and Livelihood Program for sari-sari store owners catalyzed the economic recovery of disaster-hit areas in Leyte and other provinces, with women leading the way. Through its platform, Grab has enabled female entrepreneurs to thrive through programs such as Madiscarting Boss Club. With this, social sellers are provided the necessary tech-based tools, training, and solutions to take advantage of the digital-first economy. Vono, the brand carrier of Copico, has partnered with the Plastic Credit Exchange in scaling their Aling Tendera Waste to Cash program. This provides women micro-entrepreneurs an opportunity to expand their network and obtain a new source of income through the exchange of collected waste for cash. Through our communication work, we're able to spread the narrative of women and helping other women and men to become a force of good. After all, Greenbulb's mission is positive conversations for positive change. Corporate communications mirrors what the Filipino workplace can and should be, an arena where everyone, regardless of gender, status, and persuasion, can come together, build together, and chart new paths ahead. My name is Lea Caringal, and I'm a proud member of Women's Business Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah, and thank you. I know you were like very tired from your travels, but you still were able to do this video for us. Thank you. Our second case author is a Filipino-British entrepreneur and community builder. She's a dear, dear friend and is the CEO and the co-founder of Connected Women, a social impact startup that received global recognition for its inclusive innovation, the future of work, e-employment, and women's empowerment. In 2020, Gina was a finalist of the Asia CEO Awards in the Sheroes of the Year category, acknowledging Filipino women leaders who achieved recognizable success in overseeing organizations that have led to the advancement of the Philippines' economic and social standing in the global arena. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Gina Romero.
Thank you so much, Monette. And thank you so much to Women's Business Council, to UN Women Empower, We Empower Asia, PCW, DTI, and the other partners who made this significant initiative possible. And it's my pleasure to share this case study with you today. The way we live and work is changing, It's changing as society evolves to reflect new realities. It's changing as a result of innovation and technological advancements. But one thing that does not change is the power of a single word or image to influence and shift our perception. Gender sensitivity means that as organizations and individuals, we must be aware of the power behind each word and image and the responsibility that comes with that. Gender and communications are intrinsically linked, and as businesses, it's important to have the ability to speak with conviction about gender equality and back up words with action. A wonderful example of this is Ambassador Harold Fries of the Embassy of Sweden in Manila. He speaks so passionately and confidently about women's empowerment, Sweden being the first feminist government in the world with a feminist foreign policy. Sweden's feminist foreign policy is based on the conviction that sustainable peace, security, and development can never be achieved if half the world's population is excluded. Gender-sensitive communication is becoming an essential component of every role in every department in every organization. Our choice of words and images can help advance inclusivity and reflect the equal value of all people in society. A society of inclusivity allows us to create positive change in our organizations, communities, and society. But gender equality can be a confusing topic for many people. It's important not to assume that everybody understands the principles and to lay out the clearest and simplest guidelines possible. I'm a co-founder of an organization that empowers women through technology, and I'm often asked the question, but why are you only helping women? And as someone who's been working in the women's empowerment space for over 15 years, I used to find this question jarring. Surely everyone understands why there's a need for women-specific organizations and movements. But over time, I've realized that it really is a valid and sincere question. Now, when I'm invited to speak about inclusive innovation and women's empowerment at conferences and events, I often start with the question, why women? It's important that every single person in the audience understands the answer before I leave the stage. And finally, gender bias in the media is not changing nearly fast enough. If you open Google image search and type the phrase boss stock photo, and then type assistant stock photo, the results of this exercise alone will show how far we still need to go to improve gender stereotypes and stereotypes in general. On the internet, it's simply a matter of garbage in and garbage out. So let's make sure that whatever we put out there contributes to creating a better and more equitable world for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. And I invite you to do what Gina has said, to actually search that out on Google. I did. I was surprised with the results. So let me get to the next speaker. We have with us the president of Ube Media Inc. and the director of 1LGC Lina Group of Companies. She's a recipient of the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network Award, Outstanding Entrepreneur Award in 2019. She is the chair of the UCI-sanctioned road race, La Tour de Filipinas. She is a member of the Management Association of Philippines, the National Communications Committee of the Girl Scouts of the Philippines, and the Probe Media Foundation. She has initiated and continues the Plant and Nurture Program of 1LGC in cooperation with the Makiling Center for Mountain Ecosystems, UP Los Baños. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Donna May Lina.
Magandang hapon sa lahat, sa mga kababaihan na nakikinig. Thank you, Monette, for that kind introduction. My case study for corporate communications with gender lens, more women in the corporation, more voices. Maaasahan, mapagkakatiwalaan at may malasakit. That's dependable, trustworthy, and caring. These are values that are imbibed, communicated, and espoused at 1LGC, the Lina Group of Companies for All. 1LGC started with humble beginnings from husband and wife Bert and Sylvia Lina. Those are my parents, family, and friends over 40 years ago. 1LGC is comprised of companies in the field of logistics, environmental care, information technology, e-commerce, business process outsourcing, and media communications. One LGC has its marketing and communications affiliate, Ube Media Incorporated, which I lead. It runs the weather, disaster risk, climate change program Panahon TV. It is also the organizer of the Union Ciclist International Sanctioned Road Race in the Philippines, Le Tour de Filipinas. We've activated innovations, new services, and solutions. It's vital to communicate with gender sensitivity when communicating with internal stakeholders of the company and externally, such as customers and the public. This is done in various ways of communicating, not only in the written word, but it extends also in other ways of communicating, verbal and non-verbal, communication in culture and atmosphere. With more participation by women, businesses can have a wider and deeper pool of talent that can strengthen solving the world's problems. At Panahon TV, there is a balance of on-camera reporters with female and male reporters alternating reports. Behind the scenes, there are more women producers than men in the program. And for Le Tour de Filipinas, currently the category though is only for men. But the organizing committee is led by women. One LGC has been an equal opportunity organization assigning roles through capabilities in merit. In consideration to threats to safety, more safeguards are done for women, such as providing safe places for work and avoiding harm. Women at one LGC have the opportunity to thrive with clear communicating policies on protection for women, growth and leadership roles, and women's health. At executive levels, women have greater participation in board activities, thus giving depth and perspective in decision-making. On a social level, access to male-dominated corporate social activities are present, such as participation in golf tournament as part of physical, mental, and social health. For working mothers, women have benefited in access to healthcare, great support from management for working women. The nurturing culture and supportive men in the one LGC environment also have led to a women-empowered organization as well. One LGC has open positions for both women and men, while on-ground roles, specifically couriers, drivers, medical waste collectors, are still filled by men. Many opportunities are available for women, such as planners and executives. Logistics professionals, initially secured positions by men, are also fulfilled by women. Communicating women's active representation and participation in a corporation sets the tone in setting the gender lens. Magandang hapon po.
Maraming salamat, Donna. Can you please stay here and can we ask back Gina, can you join us? We're now going to open the floor to any questions that you might have. Please, again, put it on the chat box or on the Q&A button. But while you're writing it down, let me start with the first question. How do you think can businesses benefit from communicating with strong advocacy on women's empowerment and gender equality? Any of you may start.
Let me start. So, well, I think the benefits of having a diverse audience, the benefits of having a diverse team are really undisputed. And so the beauty of coming from someone who's passionate about technology, the beauty of the way we live and work now is that we have access to a whole talent pool. Anybody that you need, any type of talent that you need, you can access from anywhere. And so I think that what we need to look at is the more diversity we have in our organizations, the bigger the picture we can see. And that really helps everyone, right? In everything that we do, in the decisions that we make, in the choices that in the business choices that we make, the products that we deliver, the solutions that we create. It just gives us a better perspective of the world. And so I think diversity in general is so important, but making sure that we put the right message out there. Even if you're a small organization like Connected Women and you're trying to attract the right talent, putting a very diverse, gender inclusive or diversity inclusive message out there means that you're giving yourself the best chance to find the right people to be part of your team.
Thank you, Gina. Donna, would you like to add?
Yes, I'll add to that. Gina said it already very excellently. Aside from diversity and inclusion, I'd like to add given the context of the pandemic, as stated by reports already, that apparently women-led countries and organizations have performed much, much better than male-dominated leadership countries. So that just puts context into it.
True. The leadership sets the tone, right? Now, question, where do you think companies need to start in terms of developing a communication strategy with a gender lens? What's the first step?
The first, I'll try that. The first step is, of course, attending our seminar series, our webinar series, which hopefully will be accessible to more people. Because Monette, we've discussed this offline, right? Even for very empowered women, it really takes a lot of deliberate focus to actually put the gender lens there. So I'm still learning a lot there. And also to add more men also in the discussion, so that they can also understand the women's perspective.
So get the men behind us, right? Gina?
Yeah, I think that this space in general, like the diversity and inclusion space, can be quite confusing for a lot of people because it's changed so much over time, right? Like what is politically correct, what you can say, what you can't say. Some people are actually afraid of saying the wrong thing, that they become so paranoid, you know. There are some generations, especially older generations, that are finding a big transition to the changes, where they feel that they can't even have a joke with women, or they don't feel comfortable anymore around women or around this topic. So I think we need to also be a little bit forgiving of people that make mistakes, because they may not have come from the same background as us. I didn't come from a women's empowerment background, like many of the previous speakers have also mentioned. Somehow you end up in this space. And then, of course, we're preaching to the converted all the time. We talk to each other and we know it now. But there was a time when we also didn't know it. So I think, you know, we have to be a little bit forgiving. I think big brands and big organizations, it's a little bit hard to forgive when they make a major faux pas that they should know better. But individuals and smaller organizations that are still trying to learn, I think we can be more forgiving and you know, just try and help people understand why things are changing. And, you know, I've often been quite irritated, to be honest with you, before, when people say, well, why are you only helping women? And I think to myself, that's such a silly question to ask. But I realize it isn't a silly question. It's a really valuable question to ask. And answering that question sincerely will actually help them understand. And, you know, changing people's perception one person at a time, I think, is how we have to approach it.
You know, this is very interesting what you brought up, which is actually how do the organizations take a look at it? Because many times when you ask them, are you inclusive? And their answer is, of course, we give equal opportunity. But what do you think? Does it end there? That it should just be understood by everyone that we give equal opportunity to all genders? What do you think? Should there be anything special? Like, should you have special lanes, for example, just for women, for example?
Everything needs to be really well thought through, right? Because like I said, it's a very sensitive area and you can actually make a mistake. I mean, some companies and organizations have made major mistakes and have been really, you know, stung in the media for doing things like, for example, creating a pink gadget for women, thinking that they were actually trying to be more inclusive, but somehow got it horribly wrong. So I think the education has to be deeper than just issuing the memo, right? They really have to understand in depth. And the speaker today, Karen, did such an amazing job of reinforcing all the different ways that we can be more inclusive. So I know that my team are already gender inclusive, of course, but diversity at large is not all of our expertise. So I said everyone must watch this because, you know, it helps us every day if we keep on learning.
Donna, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I was just reading the message of Chitwan on the chat box. And yes, I agree that sheer meritocracy sometimes is an excuse for not having a gender sensitive manager. I'll just put it into context because, as I said earlier, we're like a mom and pop shop founded by a couple who basically grew the business, and Chit knows my parents, and we're quite privileged to have both a gender lens. But yes, it does have to be very, very deliberate when you express gender positions and For people with families, I think that's the whole struggle right now in terms of managing your family, managing your corporations, and it's not really very much discussed in the home. Earlier stated by Karen, the millennial parents are more like equal gender now, at least in domestic roles. There's a popular meme, right, in terms of advancement of women where they're in a race and then the women have all of these other duties that they have to do. I love domestic chores, but yes, if there are more men participating at home, then maybe in the workplace, there's going to be more women who will be actively doing a lot of corporate jobs.
So definitely, it really has to come from the top, and the values brought in from the beginning, like your parents did, no? And we really owe a lot to our parents. And I guess as parents now, we also have that responsibility to make sure that the next generation has more open eyes. So it's aside from them being part of the millennials and the Gen Zs. Okay. We are running into the end of the time that we have. So I would like to request each of our speakers to kindly give your last words. What do you think, what would you like to leave the audience with in terms of corporate communications with a gender lens? Gina, would you like to start?
So we're really fortunate to live in a world where technology has democratized our ability to create, share, and access information. Small businesses have as much marketing power in many ways as huge brands. We can create powerful messages just because of the sheer power of the crowd, the people power. And so it has leveled the playing field, I think, making information and opportunities available to many, but sadly not to all. So I think, first of all, it's so important to make sure that this wealth of knowledge and opportunity is accessible to everyone. It's part of what Connected Women is advocating for, and what we do every day is making sure that no one is left behind in the digital future. But most importantly, as individuals, as organizations, big and small, we need to make sure that everything that we contribute to this pool of knowledge, every word, every image, and every message creates a more inclusive future for all.
Thank you very much, Gina. Donna?
Yes, thank you. For the women out here and for the leaders, I think there's a huge responsibility for us to, just like what Gina said, right, to share this information and to really use our strength to empower other women. You don't realize actually how strong you are until you share that kind of strength to other women and also men.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Donna. And talking about strength of women, that is something that we have seen very, very recently. Right now, media can actually change things around and show the world just by images, just by words, exactly the importance and the role of women, no, for equality. Wax, can you play that video that I asked you to?
Ang tawag dyan, dynamic start. Ganyan din ang tawag sa mga bagong botante. Dahil kayo ang aangat sa bayan.
Thank you, Wax.
Amazing.
3 days ago, we didn't know who Heidi Lynn Diaz was, right? Very, very few people, unless those who really follow the Olympics, would have known that there was a Heidi Lynn Diaz around. But in a single second, she was able to change, to bring pride back to the country and to show that the woman can excel, can win an Olympics, the very first gold medal for the country, and in a sport that is usually reserved for men, which requires brute strength. But she has shown that she has been at it, she has worked at it, and that she truly, truly deserves the prize. And she has raised the bar for the entire world. This is what people have to do. I think everyone, all the women here and the men who are part of this event today, have the responsibility and the power to use words, to use images in all the communication that we do, to show that there is gender equality, that we have to give the same kind of opportunities to people. Now, just quickly, Leah, who's in New York, she showed that in the practice of corporate communications, that both men and women have equal status. And what's important is their professionalism, their competence, their integrity, their learning agility, empathy, and self-awareness. And she has been working for many years with strong women who have broken the glass ceiling in their industry. So as far as Leah is concerned, she sees women as strong, capable leaders and role models. And she has shared her clients' corporate social responsibility initiatives, the sustainable investing that empowers and gives visibility to women entrepreneurs. And Donna coming from family business, brings and shows to us that it's important to have gender sensitivity in both verbal as well as nonverbal communications internally and externally. By communicating the women's active representation and participation at various levels of their different organizations, the group actually imparts its values and cultures as an equal opportunity organization, recognizing capabilities and merit. However, it's still a work in progress, as Donna herself mentioned, because there are some roles where men still dominate, for example, ground positions for the couriers, the drivers, and medical waste collectors. On the other side, as a co-founder of an organization that empowers women through technology, Gina finds it perplexing to be asked, why is she only helping women? And she has decided to make it her quest to explain the need for women-specific organizations in all her talks, as she did this afternoon. And so, friends, I do invite you, do that Google search that she said. Look for boss stock photo and assistant stock photo on Google, and it will just show you how prevalent gender bias is in media and why we need to approach storytelling with a gender lens. And thank you so much to our speaker, Dr. Karen De Assis, earlier, who showed us that it can be done. And while it can be done media-wise, there is still much that can be done. I was so happy just looking at the television the other day, and I saw an ad, and this one was by Ariel, the soap for laundry. And they released their Welcome Home Safe advertisement, which gives hope in terms of challenging stereotypes. That ad portrays 3 essential workers and their families who are waiting for them to come home safe. Interestingly enough, 2 of the frontliners were women. One's a single mom of 5 children selling takoyaki on the street to make ends meet, take care of her children. And the other one's a registered nurse, actually doing 2-day shifts. The lone male in the ad is a delivery driver. In one vignette, we see the husband of the nurse laundering his wife's, the stained nurse's uniform and thinking about, showing all the love there. So we can see this brand actually sullying forth and giving that message of women empowerment. We all can do our share in infusing a gender lens in our communication. Let's avoid using words and images that patronize, that objectify, that marginalize, or depict women as victims. Instead, let's begin by portraying women as agents of change, as leaders, as empowered human beings in positions of authority and power. At conferences and webinars, which I organize a lot of, we ensure that each time there is a roster of speakers, that it's diverse, that there's a woman there, not just as a moderator, but as a speaker. And if all of us can do these things, we can look forward to Sheryl Sandberg's prediction that in the future, there will be no more female leaders. All we will talk about will be leaders. And that is true equality. So thank you very much to our case authors. I'd like to call back Len and Mylene, and also our case authors. Okay. So thank you very much. We'll have a group photo of our case authors together with Len and Mylene. Mylene, are you organizing the photo?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay.
Okay, and now can we
Good
go to
job.
the closing PowerPoint, please? Next page. Wax. So this is the third installment actually of a 6 series of webinars or women webinars. And earlier we had one on the understanding gender lens and the Magna Carta of the Philippines, gender dynamics rather. And then we had one on inclusive leadership, which was led by Mylene last week. Today's on communications. Upcoming on August 5 will be I Am Woman, I Am a Marketer. This one will take a look at gender marketplace and supply chain. It's going to be led by trustee Jeannie Havelosa of the Great Women Group. And on August 12, I Am Woman, I Am a Strategist. This will be looking at corporate policy review and gender mainstreaming. This will be led by Evelyn Singson of the Dusitani Group. And finally, on August 19, I Am Woman, I Am Safe. This will be on the Safe Space Act, on anti-harassment primer by our favorite resident lawyer, Attorney Lorna Kapunan. Now, all of the lessons that we have from the different case study authors and the webinars that we will be having will be put together in an ebook. Next page. Okay, so in this ebook, it's called I Am Woman, a Gender Responsive Guide for Business and Corporate Leaders. We will have these ready for all of you by September 16. So we'd like to invite you to reserve your copy of the ebook already. And how can you do this? By filling up the evaluation form. There's a question there. Can we kindly put the link on the chat box? Okay. And also another very important announcement. This one's from UN Women. Please, we're inviting everyone to submit an entry for the 2021 WEP Awards. And actually, thank goodness, the deadline has been moved to August 9. So that gives you more time to complete your entries. Gina and Mylene were actually winners last year of the UN WEPS Awards. Okay, next page. So here's the evaluation. Please fill it up. We do look forward to your feedback. It will help us in terms of always improving what the different things that we provide all of you. So this is Monette Hamlin, and with this, I am thanking all of you for attending this afternoon. Maraming salamat.